Our very first feature focus for Jurassic World Evolution 3 has just been revealed, and with it another returning prehistoric species to add to our confirmed species list. Let's take a look. Yes, our latest confirmed species and fourth pterosaur so far, alongside Pteranodon geosternbergia and Thanatos draken, is the Tropnathus. It doesn't seem to have picked up any noticeable changes from the Evolution 2 version. We've got that same hammer-like beak, that same strange skull shape, and that pop of colour around the top of the beak. You would assume that this is meant to be a male and female. You can see they've both got patterning on the wings, but only one has patterning on the beak itself. But other than the lack of coloration on the beak, any sexual dimorphism between the two seems to be very, very limited here. You could maybe suggest the one on the right has a slightly smaller beak and slightly smaller body size, but if this is the male and female, and the fact I can't tell for sure would say how subtle it is, this is definitely one of the more subtle set of traits we've seen so far. Also the baby dupa dupa. There's the baby dupa dupa. In case you're curious, we'll see these guys in better detail soon though, so we'll talk about them when that happens. We get an adorable little nuzzling animation between adult and juvenile Lokiseratops. I really hope they've managed to blend these social animations in even better this time around. Sometimes it felt the dinosaurs were lining up with each other a little bit last time. And the more it's blended in, the more naturalistic this behaviour is going to feel, because this is a really beautiful, heartbreaking, naturalistic behaviour. It should feel like that in game. The fence in the background is the heavy concrete fence we've already got in Evolution 2. Into the hatchery, we can see some expanded dominant genes being carried by this male Lokiseratops. You would assume dominant genes are more likely to be expressed than the others, but I wonder how that works if the male and female both have dominant genes in the same area. We'll talk a little bit more about this later into the video. There's nothing too new with the genes themselves. We've got more socializing, more dominance, more defense, less area needed. It does give us another beautiful look at the stunning patterning on the Lokiseratops and its sexual dimorphism, really highlighting all those differences we talked about the other day. Honestly, my favourite Ceratopsian in the entire game, I'm pretty sure. The colours and pattern work is just absolutely stunning. We get a brief look at the management view here. Now there's a focus on breeding of course, but in total there's actually 3 new management options. Of course breeding is new, and the security camera is new as well, allowing you to see the coverage of your security cameras I would assume, and they're the things that will alert you if a dinosaur is trying to break out. And the other new one is this one here, which is assumedly ATV patrol routes like we already have for ranger patrols. You can see as the dinosaur is being placed, you'll be told how compatible it is with the species around it, due to social stats maybe, exhibit style, presence of other dinosaurs, presence of guests, etc. A little bit after that, we get confirmation that the strange kelpie thing we saw all the way back in the first trailer is indeed the Aquatic Nest. It's this interesting circular cage that frankly looks a little bit too small for like a Mosasaurus or something. The terrestrial nests don't look big enough for a sauropod. I'm just very curious to see how they're going to have animated all of this. It's a cool design though, it fits nicely into the game aesthetic, and I think it will make for a good decoration in general, even if no one's getting down inside it. We then see this strangely morbid but very cool nest for the pterosaurs, dotted as it is with the bones of various dinosaurs, including an unfortunate sauropod. You can see the eggs exposed in the middle here, which means the pterosaurs would have to sit atop it to provide warmth. And it's interesting how exposed the entire thing is, but as we'll see in a second, this seems to be a custom build, which means in terms of making a custom nest, it's probably only the rock formation and maybe the nest itself that you have to include, and then you can decorate it with foliage or, indeed, bones, if you so choose. This would also suggest that all these various bone items are going to be part of the game by default, as part of your decoration tab, which is really exciting for someone who likes to make horror-themed parks. The reason I think this, because as you can see after that, we've got 3 different nest sizes for the terrestrial animals, but there's just one each for the lagoon and aviary creatures. The aviary one they're placing by default is foliage heavy like those terrestrial ones are, and that's because, I'm assuming, the one we saw a second ago with all the bones had been customized. But also, before we go, what is this? There's this strange road-looking item in the Enclosure Item list. A grey strip with yellow markings along the side. I genuinely don't really know what we're looking at here. If I had to make a guess, it's meant to be some kind of dedicated pathway, perhaps an item you can place between 2 exhibits to allow your animals to travel back and forth across those exhibits, or across limiting terrain, or something like that. I'm very curious to hear your thoughts on this one, because it's a strange looking item. The fact that it's in enclosures would suggest it's for your animals. Also, the tour is back, the Jurassic tour. Can't remember if we mentioned that. The fertility page is nicely detailed. We've got a timeline showcasing at which ages the trope is most fertile. We've got gender, should probably say sex, not gender, and the generation. And then a bunch of modifiers to increase her chances of breeding, like, is the nest in a good position? Has she laid eggs recently? How healthy and comfortable she is? And 2 genetic traits to increase both compatibility with other Tropnathuses and to generally increase fertility. There's also the option for contraceptives if you don't want the babies popping out, and a heat map assumedly showing areas where your most fertile animals are congregating and where your nests are, and stuff like that. You can then select a male and a female and use scientists to enact a breeding program. It's worth noting this is the breeding program specifically. Your animals will still breed off their own volition. This is an optional thing if you really just want to get your animals breeding, basically. If you want to give them a push in the right direction, you can choose the right genetics and assign scientists like this to make it happen sooner. And then the baby! And so many cherry blossoms, my god. But the baby. The head shape, much reduced compared to its parents, much more standard pterosaur in some ways. And it's got this nice little unique banding across its much smaller beak. This makes me think maybe this would have appeared on one of the others, but they did seem to both be patterned and I didn't see any banding, so I don't know what's going on with the dimorphism. But either way, it's a very cute juvenile pterosaur. Juvenile, not baby. But you can't go, and the juvenile! It's not the same, you know? The voiceover talks about how traits will pass down, showcasing in behaviour and coloration, of course. But there is an interesting line here about how you might see some traits disappear for a few generations. As it is in real life, just because you carry the gene for something doesn't necessarily mean you'll express that gene. And that looks to be the case for the dinosaurs and other prehistoric animals as well. If you keep breeding brown and blue Triceratopses together, you could end up with generations of brown Triceratops. But the blue trait is still there, lurking under the surface, ready to strike. You know, you could breed for 5 generations and then suddenly you get this all blue line of trikes. I think it's going to be really exciting breeding these animals, please don't put me on the list, and seeing what combinations end up being expressed in the juveniles. And that's about it for the feature focus. A good introduction to the breeding program, lots of footage of our beautiful new Lokiseratops, and of course, another new confirmed species. Returning confirmed species. That's it from me. Give me your thoughts on this in general in the comment section down below, particularly on that weird item. That's the thing that's intrigued me most about the entire video. I'll see you lovely folks very soon. Throw me a like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe for more Evolution 3 news, yada yada, you get the drill. Cheers much love as always, bye bye.